John, relentlessness is one of your best qualities. You were relentless. You got Carlos Rodon to join us on the show.
Relentless and annoying, but he was agreeable and he did it in uh, one day off after a long trip before he's pitching tomorrow. He's just a terrific guy. We had a run of great guests, I think, but this is one we're really looking forward to. This is a guy that we've dealt with now for 2+ years, and he has just been an outstanding guy to talk to, just to kibitz, not just to interview. Just a terrific individual. I had no idea when he was in Chicago and San Francisco what a great guy he is, and he is back to being a great pitcher. So timing is good as well. So really looking forward to this one.
Early use of Kibitz, John. Well done. We'll talk to him about the great season he's had so far, where the post-Soto Yankees are, a couple of the guys on the staff we'll talk to him about, a lot more. John and I are going to talk about the Yankees and Mets in an interesting week where they both play the championship Dodgers. We'll also play Hit and Error at the end if you stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and John Heyman. John, it's an interesting week on the New York baseball calendar because both the Yankees and the Mets are playing series against the champion Dodgers. The Yankees were out in Chavez Ravine first. They lost two out of three over the weekend. They blew a lead on Friday and lost with their best, Max Fried, on the mound, not able to hold the lead. And then they got completely obliterated on Saturday and came back Sunday with one of the surprise stories of the year. Ryan Yarborough pitched very well. The length of their lineup did very well against Yamamoto, who had probably been in like NL Cy Young contention, through 2 months of the season. You were out there, John. Let me give you the floor. You're doing the 6,000-mile round trip in 6 games out there. What'd you think of the first three World Series
Right,
repeat Dodgers and Yankees?
right. I'm out here and I'm going to stay out here for the Mets. I mean, obviously, it wasn't great overall. Judge was fantastic, particularly in the first two games with 3 home runs. Yarbrough, amazing. You were right on that. I mean, you were praising him before I even barely knew who he was. So he's been amazing. The repertoire and everything else. We'll see if he can keep it going. He's 33 years old. He's been around. You don't see these kind of pitchers, and I like to see a guy pitching. Not everybody can throw 98 miles an hour. I know that MLB teams love that kind of guy, and that's why he had to sign for the low price of $2 million. But looks like a great pickup by the Yankees. They are good at that, getting those guys on the bargain. They've been good in the bullpen doing that as well. I'm a little concerned about the team, though, not just because they lost the game 18-2 and they gave up, I don't know how many runs in a row between the first and second game. It was probably like 13, 14 runs in a row. First of all, the bullpen to me is still questionable. And that's even before the injury to Weaver. Now, Weaver was warming up, couldn't get in the game. He felt a little tweak in his hamstring. That to me is very worrisome as well. To me, that is a key guy. I mean, it's not just to me, to everybody. That's a key guy on this team, right? And we're gonna have Devin Williams back as the closer, and then everybody has to move up a notch. At least for we'll see. We'll see how long this is. But normally a hamstring injury is at least a couple weeks, unless he's a miracle case. I don't know. But Dominguez also with the thumb. But they're so deep in that lineup right now, right? They seem like they have an extra starting player. So certainly they can, I think, survive that. Although Dominguez has been very good. So I am actually concerned about the Yankees. We did this last week, and we were both on board with the Yankees and not as much with the Mets, and we're probably going to flip now. But of course, the Mets played the Rockies, who basically aren't trying, and they should be what's they call in soccer.
Relegated.
They should be relegated, and the
The
Dodgers,
single A.
$400 million Dodgers, even with only half or two-thirds of their players, they're still that lineup is still. I mean, that is the best line. I know Francisco Alvarez said the Mets have the best lineup. The Dodgers have the best lineup. I
Yeah.
mean,
That was a Mookie Betts free lineup also that produced
right.
18 runs on that day. John, I'm also a little wondering about their bullpen, especially if they lose Weaver. I thought Weaver was in this group the least important of the most important, but I've always felt all season once Cole goes out and Soto is gone, Judge, Freed, to some degree, our guest today, Carlos Rodon, and Weaver are the most important guys on the team. Like I think they could like afford to lose anybody else. I wouldn't feel as bad about the Weaver thing if Devin Williams and or Loizaga were pitching well, but they're not. pitching well because I think those guys historically and stuff-wise can handle the last 6 outs of the game. Fernando Cruz, I believe, will come off the injured list on Tuesday and join the group. They have guys to get this done, but Weaver had become not only effective but efficient. Like he'd come into games and throw 12
Amazing.
pitches and be done with an inning without any tightrope walk or
I,
anything. So that's an obvious loss. If I were going to throw a bouquet at the Yankees for a lost weekend, I do think both on how they began Friday and against Yamamoto, we did see one of the difference from when they played in the World Series. Last year it felt to me they could score in the innings where Soto and Judge batted. This year, it feels to me they could score in a lot of innings. Like they have a lot of offensive players. They should get Jazz Chisholm back, maybe again as early as Tuesday. Maybe Stanton. Maybe you could tell us something about where you believe Stanton is getting closer to this, joins this as well. I just feel their offense is so much longer than it was last year. And it kind of showed against Yamamoto, who is really a very good pitcher and had dominated them twice already.
Right, just because I say the Dodgers have the best lineup doesn't mean the Yankees don't have a great lineup as well. I definitely feel that way. Certainly with Jazz coming back soon and Stanton, hopefully, I would say 2 weeks would be my guess. Mid-June, I think is probably fair. That would be even better. But certainly Bellinger and Goldschmidt are terrific both ways. I think that's a big thing. I think the defense is much better, that Dodger scouting report that you kind of uncovered and that they alluded to, and Joe Kelly was quite, I'll say, candid about it, or how he felt about the Yankee offense. Now, I mean, defense. I didn't think it was as bad during the season as it was in the World Series, but it was no better than average at best, I think. Now I feel good about the defense. Bellinger is a terrific defender, three different outfield positions. Judge is one of the best, if not the best, right fielder in the game. He was not the best center fielder. He did certainly an adequate job there, but he certainly isn't Pico Armstrong or somebody of that ilk in center. How could he be? But Goldschmidt has been a terrific signing. 1 year, 12.5. I mean, talk about a guy who was, yeah, exactly, a pro. I mean, and he's very good defensively, um, borderline gold glove defensively, and offensively, I mean, he's hitting over 330. That's pretty good. That certainly lengthens the lineup. Rizzo obviously was on the downslide. Unfortunately, that concussion seemed to send him on that downslide, and he wasn't the player. He had a great career, but he wasn't the player that Rizzo is, and that Goldschmidt is. And Goldschmidt at 37, got to give him credit, right? He had a terrible first half last year and a good second half, and they believed in the second half, and it looks like they were absolutely correct.
Yeah, John, one last thing on the Yankees. I'm curious about what you think before we flip over, talk a little about the Mets who are going to play the Dodgers. And again, John is out there. We'll be covering all 3 games for the Post. Uh, they're going
Four
to
games actually.
Well, I'm sorry,
Four.
John. You're right.
That's
But
right.
my mistake, 4 games. Uh,
Yeah.
is Jazz Chisholm's coming back. He's coming back at third base. And I know you hate my basketball analogies, but I thought Jazz Chisholm played defense at third base like Karl Anthony Towns plays defense in the NBA, which is to say he's never in the right position. Like it's not about the athleticism or the will or anything. Like it just feels like he's wandering around a lot. And I wonder to be able to give DJ LeMahieu what he wants, which is he wants to play second base. He feels more comfortable there, both physically, mentally, the whole thing. Should they be doing this? Should they be putting him at third? Just because I know what their front office is saying. It's easier to make an acquisition in July at either second or third than to pigeonhole yourself and just say third. But they are putting Chisholm at his second best position, and
Right.
he's the carrying player more than LeMahieu. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. He is versatile. And he was an outfielder for a while with the Marlins, and he was very willing to go to third. I mean, that's really what separated him and Glaber, who we love Glaber personally, but he was a second baseman. That was it. Jazz is willing to do either. I think it can be taught. He's a smart guy. It seems like there are more responsibilities that are more complicated in the middle of the diamond, and he handles them well. I would think he could learn that, but you are correct. He was out of position a lot. I couldn't tell you about Carl Anthony Towns, but I'll take your word on that. But I would agree Chisholm was better at second. But look, LeMahieu had a four-hit game. He's going to be the other starting player. He's a veteran. He's got injured a lot. Um, I kind of see it. I kind of do.
John, as you mentioned, 4 games the Mets have coming up. I was out at Citi Field yesterday. I mean, it's hard to tell how good anybody is. The Rockies are 9-50. I mean, it's hard.
I'm
Like,
sorry to
you
laugh.
know, you know what I was thinking when I was watching them play? I might support Bud Black for NL Manager of the Year because I don't know how he won 7 games. He won 7 of the 9 games with them. The other guy is worse by a lot than Bud Black was. And by the way, that was the worst record, tied for the worst record after 40 games in Major League history. And I'm thinking about him anyway. But one thing stood out. Clay Holmes completed 7 innings for the first, got into the seventh inning and completed it for the first time in his career, including this year when he became a starter again full time. And I think just as interesting for your game tonight that you'll be on Monday night is Paul Blackburn is being inserted into the rotation. The Mets made no special accommodations to play the Yankees. They just stayed in line with their rotation. They're making no special accommodations for the Dodgers. They're inserting this guy because it's very important for them. Senga is the only one of their entrenched starters who hasn't pitched on regular rest this year. They've only done it 6 times. Senga's done none. They clearly feel like that's how you get the best out of him, is you give him at least 5 days of rest between hand. And by the way, like Paul Blackburn's the sixth starter. Today, while we're talking, in Coney Island, Sean Manaea is throwing a simulated game, live batting practice. Tomorrow, Frankie Montas pitches at AAA, probably has 2 more after that. The Mets have been what David Stearns attempted for them to be, which is really good pitching lab thing and depth. Like everyone is pitching
Yeah,
well. And to the
right.
point where they trust Paul Blackburn against that lineup you just saw mash the heck out of the Yankees for a couple of days over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how you feel about this. I mean, I would only change the rotation if you're playing the Phillies, who you have to beat. I wouldn't do that against the Yankees or the Dodgers. But that's me. I don't know. And I mean, basically everybody's done well with the Mets, and give them credit. Their pitching depth was a lot better than we ever gave them credit for. I think it's been excellent. They're going to have extra starters. I think they like the idea of 6 men because of Senga anyway, so that's good. And they've done great at improving guy. Brazaban was not that great last year. Now he's pretty darn good. Garrett was a journeyman until last year. He was a little up and down last year. He's better this year. So Jeremy Hefner, the pitching lab, whatever it is, it's gone great guns. But yeah, you can't judge too much about a Rocky series. The thing that jumps out to me is the Mets, the 62 Mets, the lovable 62 Mets. They held that record for what 62 years of the most losses. The White Sox, they're going to only have it for one year. It's really not fair. Really isn't.
Yeah, yeah, it's stunning to see. John, just as a way to wrap this up, we're kind of in that third of the season where teams are beginning to kind of define themselves. I mean, Rockies, A's, you mentioned the White Sox. We know those teams are not very good. What they have to sell, they will sell. I'm not exactly sure when I watch the Rockies what that could conceivably be. Jake Bird, the reliever, maybe are they, or they'll go, no, he's good. We can't trade him. Like, this is how you end up being who they are. But we're starting to do that. I'm watching the Mets yesterday, and part of my brain, John, is always on the trade deadline. And I'm thinking, what is this team missing? And I think clearly, if they could find somebody who could pitch game 1 or 2 of the postseason, as well as their starters have pitched, I think they do that. But I think the thing that kind of sets out as pressing is once you lose AJ Minter, like I think the idea of a lefty and it matches where you are. You're going to have to go through the Dodgers at some point, and I get the Philly thing, and you have to go through the Phillies, who have Schwarber, Harper, and the Dodgers have Otani Freeman. It is a tough thing to find, and Minter was perfect for it. He had the stuff both internally and stuff wise to deal with it, and I think the loss is major. It's not an easy thing to find, and I think they have to find it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who you get. I went down up and down the rosters. I mean, hopefully Stearns is better at this than I am. I didn't really find anyone who's going to replace AJ Minter. What do you think about center field? I mean, Tyrone Taylor is a terrific defender. Siri is also when he comes back, but their lineup is not the best in baseball. In
No.
fact, the Dodgers are better, the Cubs are better, the Yankees are better. There's several lineups who've been better. Uh, you know. If they could find a center fielder, I would look there too.
Yeah, the question is how many with the three wild cards and the fact that like deep wild card teams have done well. Mets last year, Diamondbacks, Phillies in these past few years. I'm wondering how many teams will be in open cell. Center field's a tough position. These are all what the Mets need, and I agree with you, is a center fielder who could hit, but they're not going to give up the
Would the
defense.
Red Sox trade one of their outfielders? Because you got Roman Anthony, who's the best
Because
prospect in baseball, killing it at AAA. I don't. Is he not up because they don't have room or because they don't think he's ready? I don't know. He looks pretty ready to me, but I'm just looking at the stat sheet.
wondering
I mean,
about
Duran. I think Duran is out there.
yeah.
I would think they would talk about him. What about Rafaela? He's a good he's a better, even better defensive center fielder than the Mets have, but he's not going to hit that
TJ
much.
Friedel from the Reds do anything for you if they become?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I do look at that as a place they have two very good professional ball players, but are they starting center fielders for a World Series team? Maybe. I mean, I'm being picky here because they're a pretty complete team. They've done a great job, and particularly in the pitching end of things. Teams have won the World Series without a lefty reliever. The Astros did it.
Yeah.
It is possible, but you'd certainly like
You
to
know,
have it. Minter
The Astros have a very good lefty reliever right now.
right.
But the problem is David Stearns traded him away, number one. So I don't know that he'd love to come here. Jim
They're
Crane,
also in the race,
they're in the race, but John, if I and by the way, they're addicted to winning. They'll probably stay in the race. Jim Crane won't, but like their starting pitching is decimated. They have no left-hand hitting after trading Tucker and Yordan Alvarez. They got this injury wrong again, like they got Tucker's injury wrong last year. They're surviving without it. I just like, I get it. The American League is going to be forgiving. The Astros are addicted to winning. They have no farm system, no left-handed hitters. Their starting pitching depth is in disarray. I wonder if they fall, but even if they do, I just don't think that owner is ever
No.
going to give up.
Right. You
He's
got to go
just
with the
not a giving
history
guy.
of the
Yeah,
person, right? They've
yeah,
never sold, and he thinks they're still in the window. They do have a winning record now. Yeah, I mean, they could do great with trades, but as you said, they have no farm system. So what are they doing next year? They're not going to. This is the year where they have a shot at making a run,
right.
and they are over 500. They're playing fairly well. They're going to say Alvarez will be back at some point. They got pieces right now. They got a shot. They're in a weak division. There's a number of reasons you can name where they're going to not want to sell. And
They're
this is a
not going to
guy who's,
sell. Yeah,
yeah, I don't think they're selling.
I agree with you, John. But the fact that they haven't signed Framber Valdez suggests to me he's going to get out into the free agent market.
Right. No, they're not signing
And
Framber
so, like,
Valdez.
he would bring a lot back. And I think you can make the Andrew Miller trade plus if you had Hader out in the marketplace for a team that I think has to at least reload, if not rebuild. But again, it's wasted breath because I'm with you. I don't. They're in
Right. But he has
great.
a big salary, so I wouldn't give up. You're probably not going to give up huge prospect. And let's face it, I mean, David Stearns has done a fantastic job. He's not a guy giving up
No,
big prospects. That's,
he's
he,
good this year. The Mets are good. The Mets could win it all, and they should. Their farm system has thickened, especially their
right.
pitching program has done better. And like if someone's got to nudge Stearns a little and say, "Hey, Dorothy, we're not in Milwaukee anymore. You could go for it here." Like,
Right. They don't have
oh,
Roman Anthony. They don't have Jack Caglione.
right,
They have, good prospects who could get you something pretty good. They could have gotten Crochet if they were willing to give up Williams, Sproat, and probably a couple others. But those are the two that were focused on. Yeah, they have Jet Williams. They've got Sproat. They've got Jonah Tong. They've got Tidwell. They've got 5 or 6 guys that are really going to be coveted by other teams. So yes, they could do it. But when has he ever traded now he was in Milwaukee. You're not going to probably trade prospects in Milwaukee, but that's kind of the word out there that he does not like to trade
I
prospects.
get it. Nobody likes to, but sometimes you have to. John, one of the teams we expect to be very, very busy between now and the trade deadline is the Yankees. One of the reasons they're in first place is how great Carlos Rodon has been so far this season. And Carlos Rodon will join us on the show next. John and I are always very thankful for whoever joins us as a guest, and we're really thankful this week because Carlos Rodon is off of a 9-game road trip that ended in Los Angeles. It's an off day for the Yankees, and he's actually starting tomorrow when we do this on a Tuesday. So Carlos, 7-3, 260 ERA, leading the major leagues in batting average against at 164. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Thank you.
Carlos, look, you're having a terrific season here. I wonder once Gerrit Cole is lost for the season, and you know Luis Gil's going to be gone for a while, and you begin the season without Schmidt, and then it becomes Stroman. Do you feel any greater burden of I'm one of the veterans? I this kind of like need to rise to a moment.
Not really. I think it's one of those things. It's so cliche to say. It's just a next man up kind of deal. Um, for me, I was going to pitch. I was going to be pitching regardless. But I feel like if we take a look at some other guys that have really stepped up for us, I mean, Will Warren has been really great as of late. Obviously, he had the rough start against the Dodgers, but I mean, it's a tough lineup to face at age 24, 25 with, maybe less than 10 games under his belt in major league career and, under 60 innings in his career. So, um, you know, 2024 World Series champions, perennial all-stars in that lineup, future Hall of Famers. I mean, just, a tough, a tough opponent for a kid that's so young. And then, you take a look at Yarbrough, what he did last night, just kind of diced through them pretty easily. Um, Weak contact, and he's been so good for us lately. Just stepping into that role, like where week to week, he doesn't know if he's going to be out of the bullpen for long relief or is he going to be starting. So I mean, he's been really great for us as well. So
Carlos, thank you. I really appreciate you joining us. 2.60 ERA, as Joel mentioned, fewest hits per nine in the American League. Really been a dominant pitcher, better than the 2.60. I think. I think you had a couple of 3-run homers early that probably skewed that a bit, but 2.60 is pretty good. What do you attribute your great start to so far? What have you done differently?
if we dive into the arsenal, there's just been usage has kind of been I guess you could say sporadic or just there's no how do I put this? I mean, this is just no. It's just hard to I guess get a grasp of is it going to be fastball, is it going to be sliders, is it going to be changeup, or you know, and fastball counts will get sinkers, or just a. I think that's kind of the difference in this year. Just hard. It's hard for hitters to jump on the four seam, or they're not sure when they're going to get it, and sliders are kind of in between because sliders are backdoor for strike, or they're in zone and then they're out of zone. So, I think that attests to a lot of work that our staff, our pitching staff, our coaching staff, on that side have, has got me to get to this point. I think, you look at the catchers, what they've done as far as game calling and just playing the chess match, the game within the game really well. And for me, it's just, I go out there, they call the pitches, I try to execute. Very rarely do I shake. And then if we take a look, I mean, I feel like defensively, we've been, well, especially when I've been on mound, we've been terrific. I mean, tremendous. We've been so great. There's always seems to be like there's one great play every start I'm a part of. So, I'm grateful for my defense, and they've kind of got me to where I'm at. And obviously, offensively, we show up and they put up the runs, and I just go out there and they make it easy to pitch. So.
Carlos, why don't I dig on that a little? You were a very successful major league pitcher, one good enough to earn the contract that you have with the Yankees, and you did it one way, was your
Yeah.
heavy usage to pitches. How difficult, why did you change, and how difficult is it for kind of a guy who's been around a while to learn new tricks and get it operational to the level you've done it?
Yeah. So if I reflect on, the two pitch mix I used to feature, you know, for 2 years that was really dominant. It's hard. I mean, when you do that and, you strike out 12, 11, 12 per nine fastball slider and you're blowing guys away, it's hard. it's hard to say, hey, let's make an adjustment off the rip. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really hard to change that. I'm not saying that as an excuse on why, I was so poor in 23 and parts of 24. No, I just when something is working for so long, it's hard to make a move to something different. And then, obviously it wasn't like I didn't notice that, hey, they're getting the fastball up and they're making an adjustment on the slider down in. So they set their sights up, and as soon as they see a ball down in, it's easy for them to, you know, get to the bottom with the bat because the barrel, it's easy physics. The barrel drops into the slot of the slider for righties and they can just hook it out. I mean, especially in Yankee Stadium. But it's not that I didn't know that. I knew that. It was just I mean, it took time. It took time to say, hey, I had to learn. Not that I had to learn a changeup. I threw a changeup, but I had to make adjustments with the changeup and truly, really had to figure out and pitch with it. Um, and then the addition of the curveball and then the sinker and then we tried with the cutter, which I still have. It's just in my back pocket. I don't need to use it yet. It's kind of an evolution. It doesn't happen overnight, right? Like obviously um I wish I could throw 4 or 5 plus pitches. I mean, in hindsight, I wish I could do that all last year, but it wasn't in the cards, right? It takes time. It takes time to it's almost like a development process in the big leagues where you have to figure out how to make an adjustment and do it on the fly. So it took a little time.
Yeah, I mean,
And
four
it's not
except
always
for
perfect, right?
is that four totally new pitches? I mean, you were basically fastball slider.
Yeah,
Uh,
fastball slider. We
and
featured some changeup last year, especially second half is where it came along and really was effective. Obviously, now we use it as an out pitch, pretty close to usage with the slider. Changeup and slider go hand in hand. Um, And then the sinker we just added this spring at the end. Curveball I had, and it's just kind of one of those pitches that's still like honestly still like developing because the strike percentage with it's not exactly great, but there's usage for it.
Carlos, look, you mentioned all the pitches. I would also add, if I could, fortitude and temperament are part. Feel like from the outside watching this as part of this. A lot of guys get knocked down as Yankees in history, and they don't get back up. Sonny Gray didn't get back up. Ed Whitson didn't get back up. Vasquez didn't get back up. I mean, we're talking about very, very good major league pitchers. You've taken some body blows as a Yankee, and you've gotten up. How and why?
I think that the Yankees are really good at vetting their players. I don't give up. I never really have. Uh, it's just not in my nature. I think it comes from my dad and my parents and just you know what they had to go through, and what just I don't know. It was just instilled in me at a young age, and it's just part of who I am. So I think the Yankees knew that I was never gonna give in. Granted, I had some rough times here already, and I'm not saying that I won't again. And it's part of baseball. It's part of life, and it's part of it's part of who we are, and going through it. You know, Adversity is a good thing. I prefer going through those moments and becoming a better pitcher and a better person in the end. Um, I don't know. I just this is kind of every step of the way, it seems like it's always been either reinforced or reinstilled in me, and even in college and playing college baseball, um, I had very good coaches, and they kind of instilled the same thing. It's like we weren't. There's no. There's no. There's no room for excuses. There's no room for giving up, and there's a job to be done. It's just kind of. I don't know. I could probably put it in better words if I wrote it down, and I wish I could script it out for you and explain it. I just Yeah, it's just a mindset. It's not always pretty, as we know, but I just know I'm always going to be around.
it's great that you got through it, but I want to ask you about that first year. I mean, you were used to being dominant pitcher. You were number
Yeah.
three overall pick out of college. Some people thought you should have even gone higher than that out of college. You've been all-star caliber for many years, throwing 100 miles an hour. what was that first year like in New York? I mean, it's a marvel that you really got through it. It really is. I mean, were you losing sleep? How are you doing? I know you weren't losing hair. I can see that, but
No, yeah, somehow it's turning gray. It's turning white and gray though. So, um,
it happens to all of us.
yeah. That first year was rough. We had just had we just had Silo, which was a blessing. So I think he kind of made it a little easier on us than, for me at least. We got to come home and didn't have to think about baseball and think about being a dad, which was nice. So, and with the other two kids who were younger at the time, and it was a fun time at our house with three kids at 3 and under. So, reflecting on that, I think it was rough. Long drives home, a lot of time in my head thinking about, what's wrong? Why can't I make this better? You know, uh, I wish, I wish I was better at the time. But I wasn't. And like I said, I think it was just part of to get me to where I am at this point. I had to evolve. And, if it was easy, I think in this moment I'd still be throwing fastball slider 50-50. So, I wouldn't have these extra pitches and being able to change the usage and become a more complete pitcher. So, um, granted, guys, it is only June 2nd or 1st, so there's still a lot of season left, but I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys interviewing me. But we'll see how it all ends, right? There's one common goal here as a when you sign up to be a Yankee, and that is World Series or bust, as you know. So
Yeah, like we're hoping we're not jinxing you because you're certainly a June 2nd All-Star. You're a June 2nd All-Star and you'd be top five for Cy Young in the American League right now. So hopefully it's all gravy and you're happy that you did the show. Cash, I'm assuming one of the answers is probably your wife, but is there anyone else who helped you kind of like again, this is not the easiest city to take body blows in. You've played in other places, you know that you're a very bright guy. What were there people? Did anyone say anything specifically that really resonated with you that helped you through this? A person who helped you through this?
I mean, there's just there's a handful of people that obviously my family always has my back. But I think my teammates really had a good understanding of where I was because they've been in the trenches and they've been through this kind of stuff and I had a lot of support from them and obviously our staff that none of these guys ever gave up on me no matter if I had I think I had I don't know what it was, a 10 ERA in June last year. I don't remember. I was pitching pretty well up to then and had a 10 ERA, and they never gave up on me. And, Booney still giving me the ball and say, hey, still go out there and pitch. And, you know, uh, so I think a lot of has to do with, there's a lot of people. I don't know if I could just say, hey, this one thing, this one person really got me through all this. There's a lot of people. Obviously, my wife always had my back. She's my biggest fan. So, even though I might be it's at times the worst pitcher in the world, she still thinks I'm the best, even though a lot of other people wouldn't agree with that. And so, there's a lot of people at hand in this, and I think mentally, there's when people are picking you up or constantly in your corner, it makes it easier to go out there um and go out there and perform. It's one of those things. As you know, Booney's motto for me or mantra for me is chopping wood, and I think just keep chopping wood. So that's kind of that's it.
How you now you've been in three major markets, briefly in San Francisco, but how is New York different? Very different? Do you find it different or not really?
Yeah, I mean, it's still baseball. As far as cities, yeah, it's the biggest one in our country. It's the fans are very into it. It's Yankees. It's the Yankees town. We know the Knicks were playing here in the what was it Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, they're just good fans. They were pulling for the Knicks, but we all know, and I think everyone else around here knows that it's the Yankees, and it's intense. But I mean, I love it. It was it's always a pleasure. You show up every night, every 7 o'clock game, even on weekdays. it might take a little bit for them to show up to the third because it's hard to get to the Bronx and people are still trying to make their way. But in the end, you get to the seventh inning and it's sold out and it's loud, and so it's all worth it in the end. When you win here, it's all worth it. As we saw last year, obviously we came up short, but it was always packed out, and they showed up and they showed out for us. So we just want to keep showing out for them.
Uh, Carlos, this is year three of playing with one of the best players in the world in Aaron
Yeah,
Judge. And we might be
seems
saying,
like it seems like we've hit another gear here.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, take it from there. I mean, we're watching
No,
a
I
guy
mean,
who's already been a multi-time MVP. I mean, it's hard when you're watching
I
someone in
don't. I
prime
it's just
Carlos to say we might be watching one of the greatest players ever, but you're playing with him. Like, I wonder what you think of it.
I it's I showed when in 23 when I showed up. I mean, Jose Trevino, I showed up and I was hurt obviously in the beginning, but I showed up in May, still rehabbing, and Trevi was next to me. We're talking, and I was just like, we were just watching. He's like, just wait, dude. I think he was like kind of, he wasn't scuffling, but he had this. What he normally does is he has those slow starts, and then all of a sudden he just like takes off, and he hits 320 with 58 or whatever it is, at least 50 homers, 100 some RBIs, and you're like, oh, you start off the season hitting like 170, and you're like, oh yeah. And it was kind of one of those that year, and he was just like, "Oh, just wait, dude." And then sure, I'm like, "Whatever, dude." Like, he's like, he's. I go, he. What did he say? He said, he's a joke, dude. He's a video game. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I've heard this from 100 guys. Like, whatever. And here we are, year three with Aaron Judge, and he finally gets off to a hot start, and he's hitting 400. So we haven't. This is more of uncharted territory where, as far as being the bystander watching Aaron Judge, usually he gets started off slow, and then he starts ripping homers, and now it's like he's hitting 393. He has I don't know what 20 homers. I don't know. Once again, making his case for MVP, and it is. It's like watching someone play video games, kind of. I think some people compare it to as like watching someone still play high school baseball, but we're in Major League Baseball, so it's interesting. There's no one to compare it to. I think Barry Bonds, but I didn't play with him. But I got to watch him, and you guys did as well. I think that would be pretty close. Although Barry, I mean, for me, is still kind of in a tier of his own, but he's very, very close to that, I would say.
Yeah, agree 100%, Judge. Amazing. And thanks for mentioning Jose Trevino, friend of the show. We've had him on a few times.
Yeah.
He's terrific, terrific guy. Joel's not going to like this question, but I've got to ask. I mean, you're doing great now. How much do you say it's connected to the beard? I know that you,
John,
you had a
Yeah.
mustache one year. Now you're back to where you are, and you're back to pitching like you pitch. So I mean, come on, it's got to be the beard, right?
I don't know. It's nice, a little more comfortable, but I wouldn't say, oh, it's because I have a beard. That's why I'm pitching. Well, I mean, that'd be the easy way out. I don't know. Are you guys pro beard or no?
yeah,
I we're
we
in
both
favor
thought it
of
was a silly rule.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Once again, the New York Yankees write my check and they told me to shave my beard or shave my head. I'm gonna do so. So,
Don't shave your head. Stand up for that.
yeah,
Uh, Carlos, you mentioned some names earlier. I am kind of fascinated by Ryan Yarborough, who's been
yeah.
around for a little bit, and was a good major league pitcher, kind of part of the opening apparatus of the opener back in 2018 and
Yes, he was. That's
2020,
right.
but never pitched like that. I mean, he's striking out a quarter of the guys he's facing as a starter. The batting average is sub 200 as a starter. Are we seeing just a like a spurt of a good five starts, or do you see something with expert eyes where you'll like, I actually think Ryan Yarborough's a good major league pitcher who could do this for the rest of the year?
I think Ryan has always been a good major league pitcher. I think it's just it's not the Ferrari. It's not the guy that throws 100 miles an hour. It's you know what I mean. It's not the pretty souped up car. It's just a guy that super has a bunch of pitchability, and that's not in a way. None of these comments are for to be offensive to him. And I think and he would say the same thing. I don't think he'd take offense to any of that. It's more of a complete pitcher, a guy that's I mean, how many years does he have now? 13? I don't know. I mean, Ryan's been doing this for a very long time, so he has a very good understanding of what he wants to do and how to do it. He's got the cutter, the four seam, the change up. I mean, I don't know how many pitches he's got, but he's got a lot of them, and he has a good understanding of what he wants to do with each one. Um, I think he's very good. I think last year, I'm not sure what his numbers were. I think they were in the threes, right? Or maybe it was sub three in the role they had him in. Some starting. He had some starts, and most of it was long relief out of the pen. Um, so I mean, I'm voting for Ryan to stay in the rotation, but it's not my call. So, and once again, I just work here. I think he's been very good. I mean, you saw it last night. Um, so I think he's been great for us, and he's really given some extension to the pen with the innings he ate. I mean, we would have taken, I don't know, 15 outs from him yesterday, but he gave us 18 again. So I thought I mean, that's a big time to step up for where the pen's thin, and we had to figure out how to get through nine the day before. So I mean, he just obviously he won us that game, but he helped out the pen for the next week just by taking the brunt of those innings.
The last question for me, obviously the World Series didn't go the way you wanted to, but obviously came close to a title, which is pretty good. Dave Roberts kind of mentioned in the press conference yesterday, he felt that this Yankee team, even though the series wasn't great, other than Yarbrough and of course Judge, he felt this team was a little better than last year's team, and the defense was more sure. I mean, I don't know if it's because of Goldschmidt or Bellinger. Judge be back to being the best right fielder in the game. What are your thoughts on that? And is that something that's going to be a big difference, you think, down in the
Yeah, I
end?
think yeah, I think we're a little more athletic this year. I think defensively, obviously, we've made some big strides. We catch the ball, we throw it, and obviously, what we do up and down the lineup as always. Goldschmidt in the lineup extends it as well with Belly. Um, it's just it's a little more complete. It's a tougher lineup to get through with those two guys in it. Obviously, Jazz coming back is going to be big. Judge does what he does. Stanton coming back is going to be big, another power threat. I mean, we have I think we have a better team this year. Obviously, we still have to get there. So there's still games to be won, but I very seldom, but I will agree with the Dodgers manager.
Uh, Carlos, as a way to wrap this up, John and I actually mentioned it last week. Look, I think most major league players are real pros. They deal with things well. Uh, but we both mentioned, like, at your lowest moments, you are always available, honest, never ran and hid. I wonder what you think about that. Like, what do you think your responsibility is in that point? Because I know people on the other side of that interview, namely us, appreciate it that when, like, not just at the good times, but in the bad times, somebody stands there and talks about it with candor and consistency and like a good way about them, not a nastiness. And you were all that in especially those first 2 years, that first year when things did not go great. I wonder what you think about that responsibility.
Well, I appreciate you saying that because that does mean a lot. So, I mean, we have a responsibility, as you said. I mean, it is within our contract. It is within our it's our. I mean, it's the most simple thing that you can do, right? To be available. And someone has to take accountability, whether it's good, whether it's bad. Accountability needs to be taken for. Because the last thing I want to do, no matter the situation, you guys are gonna have questions. You have your job to do. And if I'm not available when I don't throw the ball well or whatever happens out there, whether it's, I'm blowing a kiss to someone or reacting a stupid way or, you know, getting my stuff pushed in, the last thing I want is to have someone else answer for me because they're not going to be able to. And it's not their job to do so. So, and that's something that's preached in the beginning every year especially when you show up in a Yankees locker room, that is like the first thing. Like you be accountable and be present when the media is coming to ask questions because the fans are interested. So that's just what we do. It's what we have to do.
Well, from the moment you showed up, Carlos, you've been an all-star of accountability. I think you're actually going to be an American League all-star this year also. So,
We'll
uh,
see.
yeah, I know we
Don't
got some
jinx
time
him.
saying
Don't jinx him.
You're not
John
gonna
and I
jinx it.
have been a cooler in the past, but we hope we're not
No.
in this situation. And again, we know this is an off day at the end of a long road trip, and we know you're starting tomorrow. And John and I do appreciate you joining us on the show.
Oh, it's fun. No, I really appreciate you having me. I'll talk baseball with you guys, anytime. So I
You
do always
will.
appreciate when you guys come walk up to me, and it's not always, about the phone recording. Sometimes we just have, candid conversations about baseball. So I appreciate it.
All right.
Yes, you definitely do that. And we
Yeah,
appreciate that as well.
yeah. So
Thanks, Carlos. All the
thank you
best.
guys.
John and I, of course, thank Carlos Rodon for joining us on the show. John, hit or error?
I'm going to give a hit to a guy who gets a lot of hits, and that's Freddie Freeman, who's a Hall of Famer. He is amazing. I think he'd be leading the world in hitting if there was no Aaron Judge. And the Yankees have no clue what to do with him. Although they had a decent game yesterday. Yarbrough might be the guy to ask. He was a Dodger, and he did well with them. But it's in 455 this year against the Yankees. I know it's only 3 games last year. We know he crushed the Yankees. I took the trouble to ask Aaron Boone, do you think you need to tweak your scouting report on Freddie Freeman? I give Boone credit. I think I saw half a giggle there. But of course, he gave the answer that we need to execute better. I do think your scouting report needs to be worked on there because he does make some outs against other teams. But he's a great player. Crowd chanting Freddie. I think he's really an underrated player. I really do, even though he's won an MVP. He's been Willie May is MVP in the World Series. He's really, really a terrific player.
Yeah, what they need to do is execute the guy who came up with the scouting report. When him and Seager were free agents, in a couple of columns I pushed the Yanks should go after both, at least one of them. And the comparison I made for Freeman was I thought he'd age like George Brett, who hit well until his late 30s and maybe even 40. And I just think Freeman is going to hit forever. I just think he's that kind of guy, the ability to have average power, lefties, righties, pressure situations. I think he's a brilliant Hall of Fame hitter.
What a deal they got for him, right? 162 million, 6 years deferred. As it turned out, I think the Braves offer, if you consider it was one less year and not deferred, and it was in Atlanta, taxes are better. Monetarily, it was probably slightly better, but I mean, it's worked out pretty well for him in LA. I can't blame him for ending up in LA. They make good deals with these stars. Mookie Betts, I know he's got a broken toe at the moment, but I mean, multiple world champions and MVP. I mean, the Otani deal is the greatest deal in sports history. So they do pretty well with their deals. But you made good picks there. Seager has won a World Series, and so has Freeman since they were free agents.
Yeah, and they had already both won World Series beforehand and performed well in the postseason, which was some of the reasons I thought they'd be good for the lefty hungry at that time Yankees. John, we've mentioned Otani and Judge in the show they put on over the weekend, and they're the two biggest stars in the game. I'm going to give a hit this weekend. Cal Riley actually has more homers than both guys. He's got 23 homers, a switch hitting catcher with power. As we know, we've talked a lot since we began to do this show together about the offense in Seattle. Well, he's defying their little history of offense, the problems hitting in that ballpark. If there wasn't Aaron Judge, he'd be the MVP of the American League to this point. Maybe he'll
Right.
put pressure. If he keeps doing this, he might even put some pressure on Judge for the actual title of it. Again, a switch hitting catcher who's great on both sides of the ball tends to kind of be loved at the highest levels. John, Seattle's in it, and they've got a guy who's in the MVP conversation playing perhaps the most important position on the field.
Yeah, and a great player. 23 home runs, amazing. I mean, he's on pace to hit 60 plus home runs. As a catcher, I don't know that any catcher can keep that up, particularly in that ballpark. Pretty amazing. I don't think anyone's going to catch Judge for MVP, but he is having an amazing, amazing season. So I'm with you. And that's a great contract as well, right? 6 for 120, easily. No contest, no debate. He's the best catcher in baseball. I know they're Will Smith, I'm here in LA, is really good. Contreras, good, very good. There's other very good ones, but there's only one Cal Raleigh.
Yeah, there's only one Tommy Hogan. He joined us in the last second. I do want to give a note. Mike Fiore of the Boris Corp. This all came together very, very late. We'd been talking to Carlos Rodon about doing the show, and he was as gracious as ever. But again, it was road trip into a start tomorrow, and we had this little small window. He jumped on, Tommy jumped on, Mike Fiore helped us put it together. So I wanted to give him a nod here. So here also, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to a podcast, please rate and review us, give us a listen, follow us. The New York Post Sports YouTube page, give us a view. You get to see what John and I look like in that full beard of Carlos Rodon. We did ask him a question about beard. You'd get the visual of that. And of course, we're fully into the season. Please stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and John Heyman.